Washingtonian Magazine once referred to Jeremy Gifford, the founder of Walters, as someone who knows how to pack a bar. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park near the center field gate next to South Capitol Street.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And now the set. And Parker's pitch swung on, hit well to center field deep. Young going back, way back on the warning track at the fence, and it's gone. A home run, a two-run homer for Jurickson Profar to straightaway center field on the 2-2 pitch. His 16th home run of the year. The Padres take the lead here in the top of inning number 2. A 417-foot blast. It's San Diego 4 and Washington 3.
2-1 pitch, he lets it go, and a shot up the middle and a base hit into center field. Profar scores, Bogart's trying to score, Young's throw in on 2 hops to the plate is not in time. Bogart scores standing up. And on at first with a 2-run single is Jake Cronenworth. Padres 8, Nationals 3.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, July 25th, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nationals starting pitching this season had been a stunning strength, but Wednesday was a bad day, and in more than one way for Nats starting pitching. The Nats on Wednesday evening got rocked by the San Diego Padres at 12-3 at Nationals Park in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Odd game. This was a game in which the Nats scored 3 runs in the bottom of the first, but that allowed the Padres to score 12 runs over the second through 5th innings. So the Nats for this regular season now are 47 and 55. And we, after the game, found out that Nats starting pitcher Josiah Gray on Wednesday had both Tommy John surgery and an internal brace procedure performed on his right elbow, meaning that he's out for not just the rest of this season, but for a good chunk of next season. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by this upcoming Saturday's Harry Potter night for the Fred Nats in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The Fred Nats will be taking the field in Harry Potter-themed jerseys. Get your tickets now at frednats.com/tickets. You can always email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We'd like to encourage you to email your trade deadline questions and comments. The 2024 MLB trade deadline is this Tuesday, July 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Who should the Nats trade? Who will the Nats trade? You tell us and submit any questions that you have. Again, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. So we on Wednesday evening had a Nats starting pitcher last for no more than 4 innings for a 4th time in 7 games. The Nats starting pitcher on Wednesday evening was Mitchell Parker. He pitched for the first time in 11 days, but he got slammed. Parker allowed 6 runs in 3 innings. Mark, the Nats starting pitching is in a not-so-good place right now.
No, and it really is pretty striking compared to what we saw for much of the first half of the season when that was the biggest story of the season for them and such a bright spot and made you think about where this could be headed in the long term. And the last few weeks, not just since the All-Star break, but really those last couple weeks leading up to the break, you have seen some serious regression there. I'm not totally shocked by that. I'm a little disappointed. You would hope that if it was going to happen, that it's 1 or maybe 2 guys. But in this case, just about everybody's had some kind of issue at some point in the last few weeks. Mitchell Parker's now had back-to-back really rough ones sandwiched around the All-Star break. This is a big issue over the second half of the year. And we talked about it going into the break, that it was great what they did, but for the most part, these are unproven young starters who still have to show they can get through a big league season and continue to be effective all the way through September. And in most of these cases, these guys have not done that before. I'd like to think that Mackenzie Gore and Jake Irvin, with a little more experience, are better positioned to be strong through the second half. I'd have more concerns about Parker and Hers because they are the newcomers. They're the rookies who are still learning how to do this. And we've seen some signs of that, unfortunately, from them here lately, that it's not written in stone that they are going to be effective for another 2+ months.
So Mitchell Parker's previous outing came on July 13th. The Nats 6-5 win at the National League Central leading Milwaukee Brewers. Parker in that game officially allowed 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and yet the Nats did win that game. But Parker in that game allowing 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning marked the first instance of a Nats starting pitcher not lasting for at least 3 innings this regular season. But starting with that game and that starting pitcher not lasting for 3 innings or not lasting for more than 4 innings has become a semi-regular occurrence. The very next game, July 14th, the Nats 9-3 loss at the Brewers. Jake Irvin, 7 runs, 6 earned in 4 innings. This past Saturday evening, July 20th, the Nats 5-4 win over the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. Mackenzie Gore, 3 runs in 2 innings. Now, Irvin did bounce back with his strong outing this past Sunday afternoon in the Nats 5-2 win over the Reds. But, I think there are concerns right now with Parker and Gore, and we'll see what happens with DJ Hers. Mitchell Parker had been consistently good. His consistency had stood out maybe more than anything with him, but he now has allowed at least 5 runs in 3 of his 4 starts in this month of July. So you look at what happened in this game against the Padres on Wednesday evening. Parker, again, he had not pitched in 11 days. He was well rested, but he gave up 6 runs in 3 innings, tossed a scoreless top of the first with 3 strikeouts, but that scoreless top of the first came via 31 pitches. He then allowed 4 runs in the top of the second and 2 runs in the top of the third. He, in the outing, gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 3 walks, did record 5 strikeouts, but all of this resulted in him over his 3 innings throwing 77 pitches. And man, this has really become a theme. Nats starting pitchers throwing so many pitches in these outings, almost like frightening numbers of pitches.
Yeah, the quality of at-bats from the opponents have been really good. There are a ton of foul balls. The Padres had 13 foul balls in the first inning alone, and it was only 5 batters that he faced. So I want to give some credit to them. But it seemed like he was falling into this trap of, if he got ahead, he was able to get through it, although it took a lot of pitches. If he fell behind, he was not able to recover from that. When he's been at his best, we've seen him be able to throw his fastball up in the zone and get swings and misses with it. It feels like that wasn't there, and Davey Martinez suggested it could be a little bit of a mechanical thing, the arm slot dropping a little bit. Now pitchers are moving more side to side than up and down. They think that could be something to look at here in the 5 days until his next start. But whatever the case, it was such a labor for him just to face every batter. It felt like there were no easy at-bats at all in this game for him. And by the time you got through the third, even though technically only at 77 pitches and you could have tried to push him further, I think the feeling was, this isn't worth it. Let's get him out of here and try to regroup for the next time. But that does concern me, that this is happening with too much regularity, and you're seeing it right off the bat in the first inning. How many times have we talked about, oh my God, this guy's pitch count at the end of the first was in the 30s or even in the 40s. Somehow they got to find a way to get over that and start having some efficiency early on. It just sets such a negative tone for the whole night.
Well, and if you would have told me after the first inning, the final score of this game is going to be 12-3, I would have said, well, it's going to be Nats 12, Padres 3. The Nats are up 3-0 after the first inning. You're feeling good. And instead, that ends up being basically it for the Nats offense in the game. And then the onslaught came from the Padres, and the onslaught included yet another home run by Jurickson Profar against the Nats. The homer that Mitchell Parker gave up, a 2-out, 2-run homer by Jurickson Profar on a moonshot to center field in the Padres' 4-run second for a 4-3 Padres lead. The homer went a projected 417 feet per StatCast. It already has been a very eventful season for the Nats when it comes to facing Jurickson Profar, but man, you hate to say it, but it's true. He is owning the Nats right now.
Yeah, think back to that series at Petco Park and all the drama that went with it. What's the best way to handle that stuff, do what the Padres have done. Go out and beat their brains in, which is exactly what the Padres have done to the Nats, and Jurickson Profar has been number one on that list. They could have retaliated in some way if they didn't like the way things were going. I think that would have been stupid, to be honest, on their part. I'm glad there have been none of those kind of shenanigans in this series, any carryover from it. I am disappointed, though, to see that the Nationals have essentially rolled over and let the Padres have their way with them. And they're not doing that intentionally, obviously. But boy, whether there's some extra motivation or there's just a talent gap or whatever it is, the Padres look like world beaters against the Nationals. It's 5-0 against them. You take out the Padres and the Mets, who the Nats have gone 2-8 against this year. They're 3 games over 500 against the rest of the league. Everybody else they face. Their struggles against these two teams in particular have really changed, I think, the outlook on their season. And, that's the way it works. You got to play everybody. But boy, this has really turned into something where they have just been unable to do anything against San Diego and unable to get Jurickson Profar out in any situation of consequence.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Padres at one point last year. The Padres last season had a very disappointing record, but the run differential actually wasn't that bad. And if you just look at the Padres on paper, there's talent on that team. Like, they should not have been as bad as they were last season. And not that they're outstanding this season, but the Padres are doing better this season. And when they play the Nats, they do seem to do especially well. So Mitchell Parker on Wednesday evening, not good. And the Nats bullpen on Wednesday evening, not good. 4 Nats relievers and position player Ildemaro Vargas combined to allow 6 runs in 6 innings. Yes, this was a game in which a Nationals position player pitched. That's something that we saw a decent amount of. I would argue way too much of over the 2021 and 2022 seasons. Haven't seen much of that lately, but we did see that in this game. So Jordan Weems, we need to talk about him. Top of the 4th, he allowed 5 runs. This is where the game became a laugher. Jordan Weems, top of the 4th, giving up 5 runs. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, a triple, and 4 singles. The homer, a 2-out, 2-run homer by Kyle Higashioka to left field for an 11-3 Padres lead. Jordan Weems now, for this regular season, 40 games, 41 innings, an ERA of 6.59, a whip of 1.68. I get that the Nats aren't exactly overflowing with bullpen options, but do you think that the time for Jordan Weems on the Nats major league roster has come to an end?
Well, I hesitate to predict the demise of any pitcher on this staff because I've been predicting the demise of a bunch of guys for several months now, and it still hasn't happened. And I suppose there's one line of reasoning here that says if they are going to trade another reliever or 2 in the next week, somebody's got to fill those 8 spots for the rest of the season. And there's only so many options that you have at AAA. So I suppose I can understand it if that's the logic behind it. But I think we have to acknowledge that we are past the point of the Nationals needing to be worried that if they designate Jordan Weems for assignment, somebody's going to claim him off waivers. I don't know why somebody would. And if they did, so be it. You accept that. This has not worked out at all. He was pretty good for them last year and ascended into a fairly prominent role in the bullpen. It just has not been there for him this year. And I mean, to the point where we thought Tanner Rainey was their biggest issue bullpen-wise. Not so anymore. I mean, I think it's 13 out of his last 14 appearances now have been scoreless. Weems has become a much larger concern. And the really troubling part of it, just as it pertains to this particular game, you're bringing him in after your starter gets knocked out early. The number one thing you got to do in that job, get 2 innings at least. Even if you give up a couple of runs, give them some length. They don't have a long man. Take some pressure off everybody else. And he ends up only throwing 1 inning and needing 30 pitches to do it while giving up 5 runs. So I could very much see Mike Rizzo at the end of the night saying, I think I've seen enough. We need somebody else to come in. We need a fresh arm to help us get through this game and then the next series of games they have coming up without an off day until after the trade deadline, after they've been in Arizona. I could see that for sure. I think the only rationale to not make that move is if you really are that concerned about not having enough relievers after the trade deadline because you're planning to move Kyle Finnegan and Dylan Floro, in which case, yeah, they are going to be up a creek. But even so, wouldn't you rather get a look at somebody else at this point who might? I mean, they just sent Eduardo Salazar down, who had an impressive 1 game for them You'd like to see more of him. You can't call him back up again unless there's an injury. So it couldn't even be him. They'd have to make some other kind of move if they decide to finally move on Weems.
So Weems, no bueno in this game. Then Jacob Barnes allowed 1 run in 2 innings. Tanner Rainey tossed a scoreless top of the 7th, but on 25 pitches, he gave up a 2-out single and then issued a 2-out walk. Dylan Floro tossed a scoreless top of the 8th, despite giving up back-to-back 1-out singles. And so Davey Martinez, unable to get efficiency from his relievers, went with a position player in Ildemaro Vargas to pitch the top of the 9th. Vargas did toss a scoreless top of the 9th, despite giving up 2 singles. But the highlight of his pitching performance, an impressive catch of a liner, hit right back to him off the bat of Jake Cronenworth for the final out in the top of the 9th. So some levity in that moment, but there was nothing funny about the Nats pitching in this game. And, to the point about Weems only lasting for 1 inning, I mean, you get Barnes to go for 2 innings, okay, but Tanner Rainey can only go for 1 inning because he throws so many pitches in that 7th inning. Floro only goes for 1 inning because he gives up back-to-back singles. Like, nobody was able to eat up more than 1 inning other than Jacob Barnes. It's maddening with this bullpen. The Nats, whether they win or lose, inevitably, Davey Martinez uses at least 4 relievers like every game. He, in this game, used 5 players in relief outings, but 4 actual relievers because he used Vargas. But geez, Davey can never avoid not pitching at least like 4 relievers, it feels like.
No, and this should have been a classic example of a game where you have somebody who replaces Mitchell Parker for the 4th inning and goes 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7. As well. And you say it doesn't matter what the score of the game is, but you're somebody who can come out here and give us 50 or 60 pitches and throw strikes and just eat up those innings so that one of the other guys or 2 of the other guys don't have to do that. And that saves a bullpen for the next day. They're already now in a bad position for Thursday's finale, which is an early game, by the way, at 12:05. So I feel like we've had this discussion too many times that they're in these spots where you say, okay, well, who's actually available out of the bullpen today? Well, this guy's down, that guy's down. Well, this guy could pitch, but it would be his 3rd day in a row. I do not understand why they've not tried to make more of an effort to have a legitimate long man in the bullpen. They had Johan Adon very briefly. He pitched in 1 game through 1 inning. I get that he's not some kind of great answer or that he's going to solve all their woes. But on a night like this, somebody like that to me is more valuable than just another one of these 1-inning guys who, in a lot of cases, has not been that effective anyways.
And the Nats' next scheduled off day is not until Thursday, August 1st.
Fredericksburg Nationals. When it comes to fun, we hit a home run.
Head to platform 9 3/4 and hop on the Hogwarts Express. Your next stop is Virginia Credit Union Stadium for Harry Potter Night with the Fred Nats. A magical night is descending upon the ballpark this Saturday. Get ready to show off your Hogwarts house pride as the first 1,000 fans are heading home with a Harry Potter replica jersey courtesy of Colonial Internal Medicine Associates. The Fred Nats will be taking the field in Harry Potter-themed jerseys presented by the City of Fredericksburg Parks, Recreation, and Events Department. And stick around after the game to bid live on some of the jerseys. Have your wand at the ready to get your tickets at frednats.com/tickets.
Fredericksburg Nationals. When it comes to fun, we hit a home run.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Here's your report from AAA for the game played on Wednesday. Dylan Cruz and Brady House each went 0 for 4. Cruz led off and played center field. House hit third and played third. Cruz's OPS so far this season, 732. House sits at 688. Now back to the show.
Here's the set. 2-1, not running the pitch. Swung on, hit in the air to deep left center field. Back goes Merrill, way back looking at it. This ball is gone. Goodbye. Into the Padres bullpen. Bang! Zoom goes Juan Yepez. His torrid hitting as the National continues with his second home run. And the Nationals put a crooked number on the board here at the bottom of the first inning as Yepez extends his hitting streak to 15 games to start his Nationals career. And it's now the Nationals 3 and the Padres nothing.
The Nats offense in this 12-3 loss to the Padres on Wednesday evening. 3 runs, just 6 hits, which were a home run, a triple, and 4 singles. 2 walks, 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position. All 3 of the Nats runs came in the bottom of the first. A great first inning for the Nats offensively, and then that was basically it. But that 3-run Nats first did include Juan Yepez continuing to mash. Yepez, as the Nats starting first baseman and number 4 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer. He did strike out twice, but Yepez in that 3-run first, a 1-out, 2-run homer to left center field for a 3-0 Nats lead. The homer extending Juan Yepez's hitting streak since being promoted to the majors to 15 games. This guy has been something since being promoted to the majors from AAA Rochester. Your updated slash line now, 63 plate appearances, batting average of .368, on base percentage .429, slugging percentage of .614. Also in that Nats 3-run first, an RBI single by Jesse Winker. He is the Nats starting DH and number 3 batter, went 1 for 3 with the RBI single and a walk. Winker in the 3-run first, a 1-out opposite field RBI single into left center field for a 1-0 Nats lead. Lane Thomas on that play, scoring all the way from first base. That was good to see. The Nats offense was alive in this inning. Heck, Luis Garcia Jr. had a single later in the inning and a stolen base. Again, you felt like this was going to be a big offensive game, but it ended up not being that for the Nats.
I absolutely thought that even if it was a high-scoring game, I thought the Nats were going to be right there with the Padres, and this is going to end up being an 8-7 kind of game. I loved the at-bats they had in the first inning against Matt Waldron. Agreed. The hit-and-run RBI single by Winker that scores Lane Thomas all the way from first, and great job by Lane reading the play, didn't slide into second. Very often you see these guys, they take off on the pitch, don't realize where the ball's been hit, and they slide. He picked up where the ball was, stayed on his feet, rounded second, kept going to third, and immediately picked up Ricky Gutierrez, who gave him a pretty aggressive send, but he was ready for it, and he was able to score and beat the throw, and then Winker follows behind him and takes second base. So I like a lot of what they did there, and the rest of the way, I don't know if it's just, the air in the balloon being let out when Parker gave up 4 runs and that kind of ruined it for them, or whatever it was. They didn't have anything like that the rest of the evening, and that was especially disappointing because you thought, okay, this could end up being a good offensive night for them. The Yepez homer, let's talk about that. What's been so nice about this is not just 15 games that he's got a hit for them. It's now 10 games with an extra base hit and hitting the ball for power. And, we talk about guys who are on the trading block for them going into next week. Maybe Juan Yepez has some value. I'm joking mostly here, but maybe you see if you can turn an incredible 2 weeks by him into something if some team out there is actually interested in him.
I'm not against that. The thing, though, that does hit me with Yepez is how long this team stuck with Joey Meneses. Not to beat a man when he's down. I know Meneses is struggling right now at AAA, but man, this team stuck with Meneses way too long this season. And who knows if Yepez would have been doing this had he been summoned to the majors sooner. But seeing the production that the Nats are getting from Yepez, wouldn't you like to have seen that kind of production, or at least enhanced production from the first base position sooner than just these last few weeks? So I mentioned Yepez having the 15-game hitting streak. Lane Thomas has a 21-game on-base streak. Thomas in this game has the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. And Luis Garcia Jr. in this game had a triple and a single. He is the Nats starting second baseman and number 6 batter, 2 for 4 with a triple and a single. Also had that stolen base. Bottom of the 7th, a 1-out triple to the right field corner. Also offensively for the Nats in this game was what has become a daily occurrence, and that is James Wood hitting balls hard, but not actually getting hits. This has become almost comical. James Wood on Wednesday evening was the Nats starting left fielder and number 5 batter. He went 0 for 4, although he had the Nats top 2 and 3 of the Nats top 5 exit velocities in the game. Every game, it feels like James Wood has the top 2 Nats exit velocities, or 3 of the top 4, or 2 of the top 3, however you want to say it. He routinely is hitting balls above 100 miles per hour, but he routinely is going hitless or is not having like any extra base hits. It's got to be driving him nuts, but it's crazy. Every game he's doing this. He's hitting balls so hard, but the results just are not there.
Yeah, and look, the first week to 10 days, we talked about how many ground balls he was hitting. That was not the case in this one. I've got a line out to first, a line out back to the pitcher that was hit 111 miles per hour. He struck out looking and then hits a ball to the warning track in center field. And he had another ball to the warning track the other night. He hit the, of course, big home run. It's not that he's not elevating it. This is truly, to me, bad luck, is just hitting him right at somebody. That comebacker to the pitcher in the 4th inning was ridiculous. You could not have placed it any better or any worse, depending on your point of view. It's a couple inches to either side. That's an easy hit for him. Instead, somehow the pitcher ends up with the ball in his glove and can't believe it. I hope James isn't getting down on himself for this, because there's so much to like there. And you've got to believe this is going to even out over time. I think he's going to be fine. I've never seen anything like it. A guy hitting the ball that hard consistently and really having very little to show for it.
Yeah, and again, it's like basically every game. Every game we're seeing the exit speed, but as Dusty Baker would say, we are not seeing the exit hits, at least not yet.
While the Nats are in Arizona next week on Monday night, Green Day will perform at Nationals Park. Plenty of tickets available at Game Time. Game Time is proud of their ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. They also offer a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Create an account and redeem the code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey, it's Al Galdi to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. This is better than any offer that you'll hear about regarding the trade deadline. I promise you. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is outstanding. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 20-point inspection. Window Nation has a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service. Take advantage of this special offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Hey, Nats Chat, want to tell you about Mint Mobile's premium wireless package starting at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/natschat. That's mintmobile.com/natschat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/natschat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Yeah, so he had a reconstruction. He's going to miss time, as we all know, but he's doing well. He feels good about it. I think he's going to try to come back tomorrow to see all the guys, but he'll stick around here and start rehabbing as soon as he can. So, but he's in good spirits, so which is good. So, he's got a long road. He knows that, but knowing him, he's going to work really hard to get back.
All right, so the Josiah Gray news. It's not stunning, but it is certainly disconcerting to see this happen to him. You certainly feel for him. We knew that Josiah Gray on Wednesday would be undergoing UCL surgery of some kind. It was said that when he went in for the surgery was when it would be determined exactly what kind of a UCL surgery he would be undergoing. Well, he ended up having two types of procedures. He underwent both Tommy John surgery and an internal brace procedure for what had been labeled as a partially torn right UCL. So he's out for the rest of this season. He's out for a good chunk of next season. I know you're not a doctor, but I'm going to ask you to play one right now. We know that the recovery from a Tommy John is longer than the recovery from an internal brace procedure. Does the fact that he had both elongate the recovery, or are we looking at the recovery is just going to be about as long as a recovery from just having a Tommy John surgery?
Well, I am not a doctor, but I did once stay at a Holiday Inn Express, so I think I can speak authoritatively on the subject. I don't know 100% the answer to this. This is kind of a new thing. The internal brace procedure is a relatively new thing anyways. I believe Dr. Keith Meister, who did this, is the one who sort of invented it or popularized it as an alternative to Tommy John surgery. But what we have seen in the last year or two is doing this on top of the Tommy John as sort of an extra reinforcement. Without going into the full details of it, for those who don't know, the Tommy John surgery is a ligament replacement. You're taking a ligament or a tendon from somewhere else in the body and putting that in the elbow to replace the torn ulnar collateral ligament. What the internal brace procedure does is it reinforces either the original ligament or the new one with this wrap, essentially, that kind of binds it together and strengthens it. So I've seen stories about other pitchers having the same thing done as being done on top of the Tommy John. And I think it's a case where it's not like he goes in there and says, oh boy, this one's really bad, I've got to do the internal brace also. I think it's really like a fail-safe. It's like we're in here anyways, let's add this to it as well to strengthen it and hopefully help it hold up over the longer term. So it's not like your elbow is only good for X number of years until it goes south again. So I don't think it necessarily adds more time. Now, Tommy John already, as we know, is at least 12 months and often more, as we've seen in the case of Cade Cavalli and others. The hope would be that the internal brace doesn't slow down the recovery, but helps keep it stronger when he does return so that there is less wear and tear and less cause for concern, years down the road. Regardless, it's July 25th as this episode comes out. He had the surgery previous day, July 24th. It's going to be the end of July next year at best before he's pitching in a big league game, and very likely later than that. And so it reminds me in a lot of ways of at least timing wise, of what Steven Strasburg and Jordan Zimmerman had way back in the day. They came back at the end of the following season, pitched in September, and then were good to go the following year, albeit with restrictions on them in their first full season back. The problem, as we've discussed, is that Josiah Gray is a free agent after the 2027 season. So in theory, you're only looking at 2 full years of control of him once he's fully back from this. And that's a long way to go, and who knows what happens between now and then. But it really ends up being essentially 2, or at least the majority of 2 seasons lost. I don't know what they could have done. It's nobody's fault this has happened, but it is really unfortunate for a guy who, even if you didn't think of him as the number 1 or number 2 starter on this team down the road, certainly figured to be a part of the rotation for many years to come. He still can be that guy, but it's going to be a while until we see him pitch.
It absolutely is. And, this season is his age 26 season. So his first full season back, presumably, will not be until his age 28 season. A lot of studies have been done on this. An athlete's prime it's not what we thought it was. It's more like 24-28. It's not like 28-32. I remember as a kid thinking like an athlete's prime, late 20s, early 30s. That's not really true. It's more like mid 20s to late 20s. So, numerically speaking, he'll be exiting his athletic prime, and he'll have, like you said, just 2 seasons left of team control before he's a free agent in that 2027, 2028 offseason. It's a brutal situation. I mean, there's no way around that. He was supposed to be one of the anchors of the rotation coming out of the rebuild. That will not be the case. If the Nats have designs on contending next season, Josiah Gray will not be a part of that. And there's also this. He'll be missing 2 seasons of development as a pitcher, 2 seasons of trials and tribulations as a pitcher at the major league level. Like, this guy's not a finished product. He's had 1 good major league season. Last season was very encouraging, but, you need more, right? There's so much to pitching. You want to learn. You want to, hone your craft, and he's going to miss out on all of that. And that is the thing. This season is a lost season. He made 2 major league starts this regular season, and he's going to miss so much of next season. This is wiping him out essentially for 2 years.
And this really was going to be an important year for him because you saw the progress last year, of course, then cooled off in the second half, but finished strong. And you said, okay, can he be that guy and can he be even better? There was serious improvement for him from 2022 to 2023. Now, could he take that next step in 24? And we just never got a chance to see it. And in hindsight, not that you ever wished any of this, but if after that 2 starts in April that he made and the numbers were not good, if he had said, as he did, my elbow doesn't feel right, let's take a look at it. They had discovered the tear back then. And I don't think he had it. By all accounts, it was not torn until much later, that last rehab start in June. But if it had actually been torn back then, and they went ahead and did this back then, it's a totally different story. Now he's in the mix for early 2025 and can be a part of a majority of that season. Instead, now we're talking about him barely being a part of next season. And so this is going to be a real challenge for him emotionally to get through this. Tommy John recovery is lonely. It's not easy. There are so many days, especially those first 6 months before they even let you pick up a ball and throw it, where you're just wondering, was this ever going to happen for me? And it can mess with your mind a lot. And it's going to take a lot of fortitude on his part to grind through this after everything he's already been through in rehab, and then hope that everything turns out to be fine late next season, get a little bit of a taste of 2025, and then hopefully be good to go in 2026.
Well, Game 3 for the Nats against the Padres at Nationals Park Thursday afternoon at 12:05. Patrick Corbin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. This installment of the Nats Chat Podcast brought to us by this upcoming Saturday's Harry Potter Night for the Fred Nats in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The Fred Nats will be taking the field in Harry Potter-themed jerseys. Get your tickets now at frednats.com/tickets. Check out our website, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
2 balls and a strike. Next one on the way. Swung on line. Caught by Vargas. What a play. Spectacular catch. Knocked him down. Diving catch on a bullet up the middle. That's one of the plays of the year. And he takes the ball and fires it up into the stands behind the Nationals dugout. Oh, my. Self-defense. As Cronenworth hit a bullet at his head, he got the glove up, caught it, and then went down to the dirt on the mound.
Give him a gold glove for the pitching position.
What a play.